Coming up today on the Locked On Hornets podcast, Terry Rozier scores 27 points, and we have plenty of unsung heroes to talk about. That's all up today on the Locked On Podcast Network.
You are Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day, local experts on the #1 daily sports podcast network. Thanks for making Locked On Hornets your first listen every day. Also, make sure you catch us on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at Walker Mail. Doug's on Twitter at Doug Branson, LOH, and you can find the show handle on Twitter at Locked On Hornets. Thanks to Truebill for sponsoring the show. Truebill is the new app that saves you money by helping you identify and stop paying for the subscriptions you don't want or need, and can even negotiate better deals on those you want to keep. Hopefully everybody had a great holiday weekend. I didn't get a chance to do this yesterday because I was still traveling home, and so I was able to do that. Doug manning the fort once again. Did you miss me? How was everything without me, Doug? Did everything go okay yesterday?
I mean, yes, on an emotional level, of course, Walker, I miss seeing your face. That's part of why I'm glad to be back. I get to see you every day. But at the same time, the solo shows are an opportunity for me to really stretch my legs out, say what I want to say, not be interrupted, basically talk like I'm doing right now.
And you have a problem with getting interrupted. Is that what I heard? Did I just hear that?
Yeah, you're interrupting me all the time on this show. It's ridiculous.
Well, I'm going to continue to do it now. Now I'm back. None of all of this, just all 100% of the time that you get to talk. Now I get to talk, and we're going to spend this time talking about Terry Rozier. And what a good game last night overall from Charlotte, which I'm not going to take for granted, even if it is against the Houston Rockets. Because last time I thought they were going to get an easy dub against Houston. They lost, an overtime loss. It was that much more painful. But we had a lot of good games from unsung heroes, guys that had to step up in the absences of people like P.J. Washington, Miles Bridges, who are out of this one because of the protocol. Good news is that Cody Martin enters and is actually in the game right away. None of this G League stuff that the Hornets were experimenting with as a guy immediately comes out of protocol. Cody Martin sees time in this one against the Rockets, but it was Terry Rozier who was our lead story, scoring 27 points. He was 7 of 12 from beyond the arc, so had the three ball working for him all game long. 10 of 17, gave you some spicy moves. How about the dance he made Alperen Şengün do and that one drive, the fake behind the back? Terry had it working yesterday, Doug. He was excellent in this one.
Spicy moves. I love it, man. I wrote down before the game, I said, I need one of Terry Rozier or Gordon Hayward to stang in this one. I need them stanging, because if they're not stanging, then the Hornets might be in trouble in this one. And I thought Gordon played well and sort of started aggressive early and then quietly ceded to LaMelo Ball and Terry Rozier, who both were shooting the ball well. I thought that was a good decision by Gordon Hayward. But Terry Rozier absolutely stepped into the void left by both P.J. Washington and Miles Bridges, who entered protocol, and that's exactly what you want from a leader on this team. Love Terry's performance. I thought him and Ball, both of their three-point shooting really helped to extend this lead, get them out beyond Houston. And we have to mention the defense too. You had Borrego after the game crediting both Mason Plumlee and Terry Rozier's defense. I thought the closeouts were excellent. The energy was excellent. The getting back into transition is excellent. And I think this team follows guys like Terry Rozier. He was the guy in the offseason that was bringing all these guys together. So if everyone is seeing Terry Rozier play intense, focused defense, I think it just leaks through the whole roster, and you saw them really shut down a really good Rockets offense and come away with a big victory.
James Borrego also talked about the overall defense, not just from a Terry Rozier or even Mason Plumlee, who we'll get to in the second segment, but just overall, the goal after the third quarter was to limit Houston to double digits. Don't let them get to 100 points. And they barely reached that goal. Houston scored 99 to Charlotte's 123, but they only allowed...
Well, hold on. And I'm sorry for interrupting you like you always interrupt me, but let's just take a moment to think about that. This is a Hornets team that could not stop teams from scoring over 110 points. And now for the past 2 games against Denver and against Houston, Houston's impressive because they like to score the ball. Denver is a little less impressive because they're more of a defensive focused team, but they've done that now 2 straight games. That's consistency defensively. That's about mentality. That's about focus. Terry brought it. Jalen McDaniels brought it. Mason Plumlee brought it in a game again where you're missing 2 of your big pieces. That's what impressed me the most.
And 2 of your big pieces defensively. I think that's what's most important, right? It's the fact that against Denver, you will limit them to 107. And Nikola Jokic, I think he goes off for 29 points, but not the greatest shooting percentage. And James Borrego really took note.
It was a rough
after
29.
The game.
You roughed him up a little bit.
Yeah,
it was a dirty 29.
Talked about PJ Washington and his post defense and gave PJ a ton of credit for going against an MVP candidate every single year, a sabermetrics analytics god in Nikola Jokic, and turned him into a not so efficient 29-point scorer. But immediately you lose him. You lose Miles Bridges, one of the better defenders on your roster too. So then Jalen McDaniels comes in, helps you out, starting, getting another one. But also it's Terry who leads on that end of the floor as well, even if defensively he even admitted that he hadn't been locked in nearly as much this year as he has in years past, and really showed up on that end. I want to get into some of the game logs, right? You brought up LaMelo. Let's talk about the starting backcourt just for a little bit before we move on, Doug, because the last 2 games, LaMelo's had kind of identical stat lines except for the 3-point shooting, which was a lot better against Houston than it was against Denver, and the free throw shooting a lot better against Denver than it was against Houston. So some changes, but 25 minutes in each of those games, 5 of 11 against Denver, 6 of 12 against Houston, 4 assists against Denver, 7 against Houston, 16 points total. Solid stat lines, right? Those are good stat lines, but overshadowed by some of the other players that step up. In this case, against Houston, it's Terry Rozier. Still having an imprint on the game, figuring out ways to help the Charlotte Hornets win. It was his 3-point shooting that did a lot of that work yesterday and facilitating at a nice level. But LaMelo Ball still showing you, even if he doesn't have the number 1 lead story coming into a Locked On Hornets podcast, he still is finding ways to affect the game.
Yeah, I mean, I loved his passing in this one. I thought he was getting multiple players involved.
Yeah, his passing
He's always
was
going to push
special.
the pace. That's going to completely change the dynamic. And I just liked his overall game in this one. I think it's interesting. He is really racking up a lot of box score stats, and the numbers look great. But it's interesting that he seems to get overshadowed by individual players. Or individual performances many times. And honestly, I think that's a little bit of a credit to Ball that he is able to distribute and get other players involved, and not feel the need to press and make this like his team immediately. We all know it's his team. All of the rest of the players on this team know that it's his team. But right now, the Hornets need a collective effort on both ends of the floor, especially with all of this protocol stuff, and you still need a center. There are pieces missing here. I think he understands that there has to be a collective effort if the Hornets are going to win basketball games. And so I really liked his game in this one.
Yeah, so Terry, you mentioned wanting a good game from either Gordon Hayward or Terry Rozier, and Terry had not been shooting the ball really all that well. From the perimeter, he'd been fine the last 3 games. He's taken double-digit attempts beyond the arc the last 3 games, 10 against Utah, Denver, 12 against Houston, and the shot was rolling a little more. But the overall percentage wasn't good. 1 of 10 against Portland, 2 of 10 against Phoenix. So not necessarily consistent, but it's been a weird year for Terry. It's been tough for him coming in with that injury, trying to give it a go against Cleveland in the second game, doesn't play well, immediately gets pulled, trying to rehab that. I think it was an ankle injury, a little bit more so. Comes back, rusty, finds a groove, COVID-19 protocol, tries to come back, hits another downfall, has a really good game last night. It's been a real roller coaster type year for Terry, where that had been his career up until last season with Charlotte. Second half, not the greatest 3-point shooting in the world, but Terry, kind of a bona fide catch and shoot guy. You knew he had an identity on how he can help a team more so than any other facet of his game. And this year, it just hasn't been as consistent because of injuries, protocols that he's had to deal with. Hopefully this can serve as a springboard.
Yeah, and hopefully, so he played great defense against the Houston Rockets, but his offense was also going. I think that the next evolution, and he's admitted that he hasn't always been locked in on defense this season. And so the next evolution of his game, and I think it's going to be key if the Hornets want playoff success this year, is if Terry Rozier can be locked in when he's not shooting well. That's sort of the next thing that I want to see from him. But I think, LaMelo Ball is key to all of this, because you saw that like pass where he was moving it in transition and he flicks the pass back to a trailing Terry Rozier who gets it in rhythm and knocks down a three. It was an amazing pass. It was a great shot. And that's what Terry needs more of, those just crazy distribution, get him into rhythm shots. And that's what we saw when he was at his most impressive. It was Devontae Graham in previous seasons facilitating to Terry Rozier. I came up with just a huge stat maybe 2 seasons ago or a season ago, where like so much of Terry's 3-point production was coming from assisted from Devontae Graham. And I think if I looked it up for LaMelo, it would probably be the same thing. Like he probably shoots, I have to confirm this, look this stat up, but I think he probably shoots a lot better when it's LaMelo Ball distributing to him than anyone else. So I think just hats off to Terry for this one, and hopefully it continues, because they won't be missing Miles and PJ for as long as they thought, but they're still going to be missing them for a few games. So they need Terry, they need Gordon to step up in the void.
Terry providing offensively, also providing some nice defense in this one against Houston. You know what else provides good defense? It's Truebill. Provides good defense from all the subscription scams that you have when you try to sign up for something and then they keep billing you. You know why free trials renew without your consent. It's a business scam out to get you, so you don't have to let greedy corporations pocket your money. Download Truebill instead to take control of your subscriptions. Truebill is the new app that helps you identify and stop paying for those things you don't need, want, or simply forgot about. And on average, people save up to $720 a year with Truebill. Don't fall for subscription scams anymore. Start canceling today at Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. Go right now, Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. It could save you thousands a year. Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. Mason Plumlee, we're going to give him a lot of credit coming up in the next segment. A couple of other players to talk about. That's next on Locked On Hornets.
This is Locked On Hornets.
You think no, Russ? Do you think he's coming out?
Listen.
Okay.
Listen. Number one. Are you listening? Number one, he's a certified gamer. Number two, part game, don't rust.
I'm with
part game, don't rust.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Nada asked a good question on Twitter yesterday. Is it okay to say that Mason Plumlee was having a good game when it was only the first quarter? And turns out it was. Mason Plumlee played really well. I think certainly the best half that he's had in a Hornets uniform. I don't know if it's really all that close. And then I think that probably extends to the entire game just because of what he did in the first 2 quarters. How about his stat line last night? Goes 7 of 7 from the field. I believe 6 of 6 in the first half. Continue to just give you the reverse jam. My guy doesn't like to do it forwards, man. He wants to do the reverse backwards jam, and that's what he gave you last night. Gave you a buzzer beater, and yet the most impressive thing I thought he performed with yesterday was a couple of rim contests. Eric Gordon going up strong. Eric trying to draw the foul, but I thought just good defense for Mason. And then there was a play even before that. I thought Mason Plumlee did a good job contesting at the rim. Came out with high energy rebounding. I was pleased with the first half performance that we got from Mason defensively and certainly offensively when he goes 6 of 6.
Well, that's, that's high praise from Walker Mail, who has probably been one of the people most hard on Mason Plumlee this year.
It was a good game. Hey, there you go, Mason. Good job.
I love that you're wearing a hat.
But
you
it's
did
backwards.
A hats off motion, but you could have just taken the hat off. There you go,
Mason.
All right.
You actually get the actual cap off now, and that's how you know it's real. Like, look, this is not just
cap.
Performative.
I don't know if that's what no cap means, but no cap.
I ain't capping. Capping backwards.
All right.
Anyway,
so
capping backwards
Plumlee,
just like Mason's reverse jams. Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, the reverse chin-ups, man. It was like he was just doing it over and over. I thought I've been rewatching all of the Matrix movies, and you know how like the black cat in the Matrix symbolizes that there's a glitch in the Matrix because you see it deja vu, you see it over and over again. That's what I felt like. I felt like, am I living in a simulation? Is this proof? Mason Plumlee reverse jamming multiple times, time after time. Am I living in a simulation? I don't know if I am or not, but I do know that Mason played well. He got credit. That's awesome. Would love to see it in multiple games. And early in that game, Christian Wood was taking advantage of him. And I think there was I think he put a spin move on him and yammed it on him. And I think at that point Mason was like, all right, and started to lock in a little bit more.
And this is a little bit of the coaching scheme, but they allowed Christian Wood to shoot from deep, and he's a decent enough three-point shooter. But that was another thing that Wood was doing against the Hornets, which a lot of big man who can shoot do against Charlotte, because they don't want you to go down low and hurt them there because they can't play defense down low.
Well, I would say it's a great schematic adjustment by James Borrego, because if you remember that first matchup against the Rockets hit him with a ton of pace and also a ton of pick and roll with Wood, and got Wood going to the rim very early, got him going, got him in a groove, and then there was just no stopping him. So I think the Hornets made the right calculation and said, look, all right, if you want to hit a couple of threes, fine, but you're not going to come and just abuse us down low and start to get into a rhythm. We're not going to allow you to do that. And so I thought it was great.
Christian Wood's impressive, isn't he? I mean, it's an impressive body, man. Like,
you
watch him.
I'd love to see him in teal and purple.
We've talked about it before, but even just watching him dunk it the way he did, shoot it the way that he did, moves really well. We had him in Charlotte for a year, and of course he bounced around with a bunch of different teams, and Christian Wood now doing some nice things with Houston.
I looked it up, and 4 of LaMelo's assists in that Rockets game were to Terry, and I think 3 of those assists resulted in threes, and 1 resulted in a layup. And so I am going to look this stat up, because I would venture a guess that a lot of Terry's threes come off LaMelo passes. But yeah, man, I mean, I thought Mason played well. I thought Kelly did some things. Man, Kelly Oubre is just driving the basketball with intention to hurt people, to hurt people's feelings. It's great. And I didn't get a chance to mention this on the last show, but one of the funny moments from the Nuggets game was when the 4-point play that Kelly Oubre had, when he like fell down and he was right beside Mike Malone, and he did this like chef's kiss, multiple. He's like, nah, 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 nah. And the camera just caught Mike Malone's face that was just like,
and he's not happy in any way. And Mike Malone is great, but Mike Malone certainly doesn't have the face that exudes a whole lot of enthusiasm.
Right, but it was the juxtaposition of the with the mwah, 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 mwah.
It's a lot of mouth noises from you. I appreciate it.
That's the thing. I have to take care of the podcast listener and the YouTube viewer. By the way, we're on YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube. 500 viewers. We wear bee costumes.
Yeah, you're a very generous man. Thanks for giving us all of those mouth noises you just gave us. Let's talk about another player who played, I thought, really well in this one. It's not hard to give Mason credit. Like, if you play well, I'll give you credit. Jalen McDaniels, a little bit easier, though. I love Jalen McDaniels, and I thought he stepped up big time last night. I thought he had an overall good game, but I thought he was awesome in the first quarter. And when you look at the ability to hit those shots, I think he started 3 of 3, mixed in a three-pointer in there, had the nice, I believe it was an assist from LaMelo or somebody driving in the lane, but then floats it high off the glass, banks it in.
Yeah, it was LaMelo, yeah.
Also, the shot moving to his left, banks it, after the bank, nothing but net, right? I mean, it was real intentional. Watching McDaniels play with purpose, put the ball on the deck. Here's what you love to see from Jalen, man. I liked him when he was just a good defensive player, a long, tall defensive player that could play small forward and just knock down threes and feel pretty confident that he can hit shots. He's adding little bits and pieces to his game that suggest he can do a little more. And you never want him being an option over LaMelo, Terry, Miles. Granted, right? Like, we can understand how much we like a player within the context of what he's supposed to be. But when McDaniels can put the ball on the deck a little more, man, he had a nice pass in this game off of the dribble. He's just becoming more skilled within the NBA game. And that's going to add so many different levels to not only his game, but to how the Charlotte Hornets can beat you. I thought McDaniels was awesome in the first quarter, more so than the rest of the game, and 6 of 12 deep. That goes to show you anyway. Like Jalen is a real solid rotation NBA player, I think, and that's coming where those minutes are going to come even more consistently, even if they already kind of have the last, I don't know, maybe couple of weeks Borrego system.
I think Jalen McDaniels really represents what has taken Charlotte's offense to a new level, because I think over the past several seasons, they have been able to shoot the ball decently well. They've had multiple people who can shoot from outside, and they can put that on the court at the same time. What I think Miles' evolution has meant, what McDaniels' evolution has meant, when Gordon is playing really well, I think what that all means is that you can score on multiple levels. You have multiple layers to your offense. You can drive and kick. You can pull up from mid-range. You can knock down the three. The only thing really they're missing is like a legitimate post threat. And so, that's why you've been calling for some kind of center. It is one thing that's missing both offensively and defensively. But that's what they have. They have multiple players who can do that. And I think that's been a big difference in how their offense has operated. And then, you said it. I think his starting – He started, I think they said 17 or 18 games last season.
I thought it was 19, but like weird. You forget about that last year, but he had a decent amount of started games.
Right, so he understands the moment. This was not a surprise that he played well, but at the same time, I just love the calculation there, because you've seen Borrego go to Oubre before with the start, but I liked going McDaniels here because his length, I think, really bothered guys like Armani Brooks, who tortured the Hornets in that first matchup. He was able to really close out, get some arms up, bother some shots. So I just hats off to a lot of people, but hats off to Borrego, I thought, who really had the strategy. And let's just take a moment to zoom out before we get into the fun stuff in the third segment and say that the Hornets are above 500 at the end of December. And it's been a long time since they've been this good, this late. You have to look back to the 2016-17 season, that disastrous season when they had Roy Hibbert, and then they went 2 games above 500, and then they lost 7 straight. They would never go back above 500 again. They traded for Miles Plumlee. It just got worse and worse and snowballed on them. I don't think that's going to happen this season for one reason and one reason only. LaMelo Ball is not going to allow that to happen to this season. So I'm just really impressed with where Borrego has gotten them to, where LaMelo has gotten them to, where the entire team has really coalesced and gotten this franchise with all of the things that they've had to fight against this season. It's really impressive.
Yeah, can they continue to buy in to defense just a little bit? Mm-hmm. Can you not allow teams to go over 110, which seems pretty reasonable to ask, and then rely on your offense, where McDaniels, again, such a nice cutter, can do a few more things. Cody Martin, not a good game last night. Coming back from protocol, we'll see what he can do offensively, but we've seen it before. Really, like, you have 2 really good cutters that are shooting well to help with clearly top options like Gordon, Miles, LaMelo, Terry, not necessarily that order, and then have these other guys that can contribute. That also allows you to feel pretty comfortable with an above 500 record by the time this is all said and done, and maybe even out of the play-in tournament, just outright playoff spot, which is what this team has wanted all year.
Well, here's the litmus test. Here's when you'll know that the Hornets have turned a corner. And this may not be able to happen consistently without a move to bring in a defensive-minded center, but I think they could do it once in a while. And that's if they can beat a team 105-99. Not 123, not when you're shooting lights out, not when you have multiple people knocking down threes and it seems like you can't miss. Can this Hornets team beat a team when they're not shooting well, but they can lock down the defense and get a grinded out 105-99 victory? If they can do that, that's when you know, hey, whoa, something's changed.
Yeah, the last time those types of victories happened, we got a 106-99 victory on the road against Orlando, a 109-103 victory against Washington. You had a 97-87 victory against Washington. And here's the most impressive one that came like that, Doug. 106-102 Golden State. Even before that, 104-96. I guess the point is, you've seen them do it, and man, that was a long time ago, right?
Right, but that's when they were playing their best basketball.
Yeah, for sure.
That's when they reeled off 5 straight. That's that's when they were getting quality win after quality win. By the way, they've got the Washington Wizards coming up again, so it'll be a nice little sort of check-in. Can they pull that same defense together? It's going to be tougher to do, obviously, without Miles and PJ if they have to miss extended time. But that's when you know the Hornets will have turned a corner.
Yeah, Wizards, by the way, ahead of Charlotte in the standings. Wizards, the 7 seed. Charlotte, the 8 seed. 17 and 16 Washington is. 18 and 17 Charlotte is. So we'll see if they can get one over on Washington. All right, let's go to the fun segment. We'll talk about a few things that we saw yesterday. One I'm sure you can guess that had us laughing, but not before I mentioned Bet Online. They have you covered this holiday season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football continues its march through the college bowl season and the pro football playoffs. Bet Online remains your number one spot for all the sports action this year. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus from basketball, football, UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. You don't have to wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and the easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports, so don't wait to take advantage of all the new amazing offers available to you. BetOnline, where the game starts. Gerald Henderson, the Ghost, reappears. We talk about that next on Locked On Hornets.
This is Locked On Hornets.
My fourth cousin twice removed is Gary Busey, who is considered one of the greatest American actors of all time. So
are we doing this? I've got one to contribute.
I was completely alive, but
man, I fell for it. I really thought he's just such a random name to bring up. I thought Gary Busey was going to be it.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
All right, Doug, it happened again. The Spectrum Center. I mean, you got to pay attention. You have to understand where the basketball is at all times. If you watch a Charlotte Hornets game at the Spectrum Center, and Christian Wood reminded us all of that with just an outright errant pass out of bounds. I don't know who he was trying to throw to. I forget who the player was, but the outlet pass sailed above his head by about 16 different rows and then nailed somebody walking, by the way. I think they were walking back to their seat. I don't know if they had any food in their hand or whatever. I didn't see the clip in that detail. But somebody walking back in that little alley, boom, right in the head once again. Christian Wood got somebody. Very Gerald Henderson-esque. We all know that video of the lady getting just destroyed in the face with that basketball. Slow motion is fantastic. Watching the glasses come off, it's awful and fantastic at the same time. Happened again yesterday against the Houston Rockets.
You can't get people to pay attention at a baseball game, and a baseball will actually murder you. Like, if you get hit in the head with a baseball, you could die. Basketball, I mean, you'd have to throw it pretty hard to cause that kind of damage. And she seemed, by the way, we should say she seemed okay. I don't think she was really seriously hurt by it or anything. But
let's hope so after the way we're talking about this. Yeah, I certainly hope she's okay.
But I would give her the benefit of the doubt on paying attention because she was walking. She was walking back to her seat. The old lady that got hit by Gerald Henderson's errant pass was looking down, and she was in her seat. Like, she should have been looking, maybe eyes up phone, a little bit. But also, she wasn't expecting a pass.
No.
Like, who goes and sits at their courtside seat and expects to catch an NBA pass?
With the face.
But yeah, this one, I don't know which was funnier. I don't know.
The slow motion is always going to make it better with the Gerald Henderson pass because that one's kind of worldwide NBA known. That is a common GIF that everybody is going to use.
You see some like flapping skin.
I know
because the slow mo is like blah, 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 blah.
and then you see the space in between the basketball ricocheting off her face and then her reaction coming after it because she doesn't see it the whole way. The slow motion really gives that a lot of prowess as the number one video of somebody getting hit in the face with a basketball. I'll say this though, the more difficult pass, the better accuracy comes from Christian Wood because this is a moving target, right? Somebody's walking on the alley, going back to their seat. Christian Wood, a lot farther pass too, by the way, on this outlet attempt. The accuracy, the degree of difficulty, a lot harder for Christian Wood than it was Gerald Henderson.
There's no doubt about that. I would say you're right that the Gerald Henderson one was funnier. The only thing that could have made this one funnier is if she had been holding like a tub of popcorn. Okay.
Yeah.
If she's holding a tub
Some
of
type
popcorn,
of explosion.
right, you needed some kind of visual, indication. Because I didn't notice quite at first that somebody had gotten hit, and then I took a second look. It was like, no, actually, yeah, somebody got beaned there.
It takes place at the bottom of the
props to-
screen, right? Like instead of Gerald Henderson's pass, it's a little bit more so focal point of the camera.
Right.
You see that in real time. You just see the pass go errant in the bottom of the screen, and then you realize, oh wait, that really did hit somebody.
And all it was missing was a corn explosion. If you had had the corn explosion, I think it would have gone viral. I don't think this one went viral.
Popcorn probably better than liquid too, right? If we're looking for an explosion, do we want the liquid
you
going
would have
everywhere?
seen that's the bright, the crazy, chemicals that they put on the popcorn to make it seem like it has butter on it, or I guess maybe it does have butter. I don't know. Anyway, but it looks, like nuclear yellow. That's what you needed to see that happen for this to be funnier.
Now, we also had, got a couple of Hive Life moments at the end of the week whenever we do it. We got some really fun plays in this game. Terry Rozier putting Alperen Şengün on skates. Kind of talked about that earlier. But how about Kelly Oubre at the end of the first quarter? Not only does he come up with an amazing pickpocket, so all basketball, grabs it after just poking the basketball loose, and then the clock is winding down, and Kelly takes almost a little too much of his sweet time with the cock back on the dunk, but then finishes it like a boss, okay? Like just a straight up G, finishing that right at the end of the buzzer where it's a little too close for comfort, but because he took that risk, it made it that much better to cap it off with that exclamation point. I thought that was a really cool play from Kelly, starting off with defense.
I'm going to roll this grenade into the middle of the floor. We don't have time to properly answer it, but maybe we answer it tomorrow. It's the question that I posed on Twitter. By the way, follow me on Twitter at Doug Branson, LOH, shameless plug. The question I posed on Twitter was, is Kelly Oubre becoming a player that the Hornets need to protect in trade talks if they're serious about making a playoff run? Not saying he's untradeable. I think people sort of misinterpreted saying, I think he's untradeable. And I really didn't have an opinion on it. I don't know that I've fully formed my opinion on it yet. I think
this
it's
is the open marketplace for ideas that you're contributing to.
Right. I'm just asking questions here. And the question is not, is he untradeable or is he not? Is he a piece that you need to really think hard before moving on from? Again, let's discuss it next show. This is the tease for the next show. One more funny moment in this one was when Şengün went to the free throw line, and he has kind of a strange free throw line routine, and Eric Collins said he was like smelling the basketball, and then they kicked to Ashley Shahamady for the real story, and the real story is that he's saying a Turkish prayer into the basketball that he won't tell anyone about. And so Eric's like, oh. Like he wasn't smelling the basketball, he was saying a prayer. And there's not really much you can do with that comically.
No, I think at that point you're just like, well, I'm sorry about that. Big yikes. And then they move on. And so, I don't know what you do with that either. I think you might even just a little bit apologize and then move on. They certainly didn't talk about that after that. All right, thanks for listening to Locked On Hornets, making it your first listen every day. You heard the tease. You heard the main storyline for tomorrow, the big question. We'll talk about Kelly Oubre, and we'll do it with Wes Bryant joining us for Wes Wednesdays. Can't wait to have him on once again. Now, make your second listen Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all platforms. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.